Lioness Season 3 Episode 3 could be the episode where everything starts to change for Jo and her team. After the dangerous events of Episode 2, the Lioness operation is facing a serious problem, and this time the threat may not be coming from outside. The episode is titled, "The Bear is Infected," and that title alone raises a major question: what exactly has been infected, and how far has the threat already spread? According to the episode's official synopsis, Jo confronts a breach that forces the team into a risky operation to identify and eliminate infiltrators. This means Episode 3 is likely to focus heavily on trust, deception, and the possibility that sensitive information has fallen into the wrong hands. Jo has dealt with dangerous enemies before, but an enemy hiding inside an intelligence operation presents a completely different challenge. If someone has access to the team's plans, movements, and intelligence, then they could potentially predict Jo's next move before she even makes it. This puts Jo in a position where she can't simply attack the enemy. She first has to figure out who the enemy actually is, and that could create a major problem for the entire team. Cruz, Kyle, and the other operatives may have to start questioning information that they previously accepted as reliable. Every piece of intelligence could potentially be false, and every person connected to the operation could become a suspect. The team will need to move quickly, but moving too quickly could cause them to accuse the wrong person or walk directly into another trap. One of the biggest things to watch in Episode 3 will be Jo's investigation into the breach. Jo is experienced enough to understand that someone didn't necessarily have to physically infiltrate the operation to compromise it. A person with legitimate access to sensitive information could potentially be working behind the scenes, passing information to the enemy or manipulating events without anyone realizing it. And if Jo discovers that the breach goes higher than expected, the consequences could be enormous. The Ukrainian operative could also become an important piece of the puzzle. Information from the interrogation could help Jo understand where the intelligence came from and who may have been responsible for setting the operation in motion. But viewers should remember that information in Lioness is rarely straightforward. Someone can tell the truth while still hiding the most important part of the story. That means Jo may have to determine not only what information is true, but why someone is giving it to her. Another major storyline to watch is Jo's eventual captivity. We already know that Jo's story is heading toward a dangerous situation, so Episode 3 could provide another clue about how she eventually ends up in enemy hands. The episode may not reveal everything, but it could show us that the events leading to her capture are already beginning to take shape. This makes the breach even more important. If someone inside the operation is helping the enemy, Jo could be unknowingly moving toward a trap that has been prepared specifically for her. And that brings us to one of the biggest theories heading into Episode 3, what if Jo herself is the real target? Jo has been involved in sensitive operations for years, and she knows exactly how the Lioness program works. Capturing her could give an enemy access to valuable information, which means her eventual captivity may not simply be the result of bad luck. It could be part of a much larger plan. Meanwhile, Jo's personal life is becoming increasingly complicated. Her job has always placed enormous pressure on her relationship with Neil, but the danger surrounding her work could now begin affecting the entire family. Neil may increasingly question whether Jo's mission is worth the risks being placed on their home life. That emotional conflict could become an important part of Episode 3 because Jo is constantly being forced to choose between her responsibility to the mission and her responsibility to her family. But the biggest mystery remains the identity of the infiltrator. Is there actually a traitor inside the CIA? Is someone secretly passing information to the enemy? Or is the breach being caused by a much larger network that Jo hasn't discovered yet? My prediction is that Episode 3 will give us a major clue, but I don't expect the complete mystery to be solved immediately. Lioness could introduce a suspect who appears to be responsible, only to reveal later that someone else has been controlling events from behind the scenes. That would make the episode even more dangerous because Jo could believe she has identified the enemy when she has actually only discovered one piece of a much bigger operation. And if that happens, the final moments of Episode 3 could leave viewers with a huge cliffhanger. Imagine Jo finally identifying someone connected to the breach, only to discover evidence that this person is receiving orders from someone much higher up. Suddenly, the entire investigation changes, and Joe realizes that she isn't hunting one traitor. She's hunting a network. That's why I believe episode 3 could be one of the most important episodes of the season. It has the potential to move the story from a conventional mission into a much larger conspiracy involving compromised intelligence, hidden operatives, and enemies who may have been planning their moves long before Joe realized what was happening. So, as you watch Lioness Season 3 Episode 3, pay close attention to the small details. Watch who has access to information, who seems to know too much, who changes their story and who benefits when the mission begins to fall apart. Because the person who appears to be the least suspicious could ultimately be the person Joe needs to fear the most. And if Joe discovers the truth too late, the consequences could be devastating. The Lioness operation is already infected, the team is searching for the infiltrators, and Joe is getting closer to a danger she may not be able to escape. The biggest question now is simple: who betrayed the Lioness team, and how long have they been working from inside? Let me know your theory in the comments. Do you think the traitor will be exposed in episode 3, or do you think the real mastermind will remain hidden until later in the season? If you enjoyed this preview, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more Lioness Season 3 previews, theories, spoilers and episode breakdowns.